So with that being said, we're going to talk about today. We're still in chapter 6, which is kind of a useful. Well, it's not kind of. It definitely is. It's a useful section entitled Consumer Awareness. We watched 2 videos on kind of the intro to that back on the Thursday before we left on Easter break, and we're going to continue with that. And what they're going to talk about in the 2 videos today is stuff that you are a product of, literally and figuratively, with no pun intended, in that anybody that's marketing or selling items typically does so with a strategy in mind to convince you that you need this product, whether it's a food item, the latest, greatest sneakers, iPhones, clothing, apparel, any of that stuff, is to convince you that, yeah, you can't live without it. And there's a kind of a wide and sundry of techniques that marketers use. That's why these big companies have huge marketing departments that do very in-depth studies of what human behavior is to convince you that, yeah, I got to get this thing, even if I can't afford it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And it's really, you're not going to see anything you haven't been exposed to either in print media, television media, newspaper, social media, but it's going to create an awareness to you that, oh, this is what they're doing, or that's why they do that, or that's kind of BS. That's inflated. That's factually not real accurate. And we're going to talk about some marketing techniques and words and strategies, such as bandwagon. I got to jump on that bandwagon. Things are going well. Everybody's getting that, buying that, whatever. Testimonials, where someone gives you a testimonial of how great whatever this product is. There's a lot of those with I'm sure you, like myself, probably watched a lot of TV over Easter break, which there's not a whole lot else to do, particularly with medical, greatest medicines. They give you testimonials of how great this thing is and how I lost 60 or 80 pounds. Repetition, little jingles. We're going to talk about that in the videos. The repetition of a jingle or a saying that kind of that runs through your head, like, oh, I got to swing into Chick-fil-A and get that Chick-fil-A sandwich. Sometimes I'll use emotion or nostalgia, where they kind of play on your heartstrings. With you guys are young, but once you get older, they'll play music back from the 70s or 80s or 90s or whatever it was, to play on your heartstrings to buy this album from back in the the greatest hits of the 90s or whatever. Some of the other things that's used is statistics, where they've done studies, what's going to help sell this product, case studies kind of thing. Humor is always a good thing. You always use a little more humor to convince you to buy. Another term you're going to talk about is transfer, and that's using celebrities. Real typical with professional athletes, where they're using professional athletes to sell a various product or new service, and appeal to your senses. Again, that's kind of like the nostalgia, emotion, heartstrings kind of thing. So that's what these 2 videos are going to cover. And then once we get done with those, we're going to do a little exercise I'm going to give you, where your assignment's going to be to watch some television. You're going to have to watch a 30-minute show, and I'm going to give you a kind of a little worksheet, and you're going to pick out 2 commercials, and you're going to kind of pick them apart and do a little analysis of, all right, what are they doing here? How are they trying to convince the consumer to consume that product, be it food item, clothing item, a medicine, Jenny Craig, whatever, Nutrisystem, whatever it is, right? You're going to pick 2 commercials in some 30-minute television show. So it's not going to work with Netflix watching Tiger King or Outer Banks, since they don't have any commercials. All right. Any questions before we get going here?
Mr. Gaffney, what are you watching on Netflix right now?
I don't know. What's good?
Sir, Outer Banks is fire.
Yeah, but it wasn't even filmed in the Outer Banks, and it doesn't even relate to the Outer Banks.
It's far though.
Oh, shoot.
There's one that's misnamed. It's not even accurate. It was filmed down around Charleston.
It was filmed in South Carolina.
Still great
Charleston,
show,
South
sir.
Carolina. They should have called it Outer Marshes or something like that.
Do you know why it wasn't filmed in North Carolina?
Yes, because the filming industry was boycotting North Carolina as well as sports industries and some other major industries because they were not happy with the governor when, if you remember a few years back with LGBTQ, MOUSE laws where, the males and females and transgenders using the opposite sex bathrooms. That was the impetus behind, I think they even moved, some political conventions and some large conventions out of Charlotte. So they were trying to, penalize or hurt North Carolina for that. All right, so we ready to go? All right, let's see if I can fire this puppy up. Let's see, we're going to share the sound, so hopefully that's going to work. Let me come to this. Let's see, I want that one. I'm going to stop it just to make sure it's you're getting what. All right, everybody seeing here? Hear that?
Loud.
Loud.
Clear? Okay, I'll tone her
Very
down.
loud.
All right, I'll tone her down. We just heard from the Munchkin Land. Here we go.
Oh, that's really loud.
Too loud?
You cannot predict the future perfectly. You may be ill. Someone in your family may have a car wreck and you're not able to work and get the rest of the money together. Then you've gotten caught in this trap of payments. You cannot predict the future. I'm not negative. I'm just 100% sure you don't know what's coming. So when you have the money, then you buy the stuff. If you don't have the money, don't buy the stuff.
Americans tend to spend more money than they have for a few reasons. Number one is that they're trying to maintain a lifestyle that they really can't afford. They see people all around them with new cars and other expensive items, and they think they might need to have those things too, even if they don't have the cash. So they end up using a credit card or a loan to pay for things that they can't afford. The next reason that they do it is to try to self-gratify. They want to feel good about themselves, so they end up using credit cards to buy things. You have to tell yourself no. You're going to save up for it and you're going to pay cash for it. When you use debt to buy things, it brings guilt as well as a payment. So save up and pay cash because you don't want to feel bad. You don't want to feel guilty about buying that item. If you save up for it and buy it, you're going to feel good about it. If you want to win with money and build wealth, you've got to live on less than you make. New things that come wrapped up in debt payments will not bring you happiness.
Of course, the straight up marketing stuff like television, radio, the internet, other media. And of course, that's where those of us in the business, I'm in the radio business, we use repetition. Well, Dave, this stuff doesn't work on me. I'm way too smart. I'm sophisticated. I know what they're doing. It doesn't have any effect on me. All right, let's get a little help here then. Help me with this. Bye-bye, Miss American. Bye. Drove my Chevy to the levee. But the levee was dry. Them good old boys were drinking whiskey and dry. Shame on you. Don McLean, Miss American Pie, 1972.
We are constantly bombarded by marketing ads through TV, radio, the internet, and billboards. We hear slogans and jingles, and before long, we're hooked. That's because repetition is a powerful thing. Literally, all a company has to do is make sure their line is repeated over and over again. That way, when we need or want a particular item, we think of their brand. Don't believe me? See if you recognize any of these. Taste the rainbow. Think outside the bun. It melts in your mouth, not in your hand. Just do it. You probably know all of those. That's because advertising and repetition is extremely effective.
Here's the oldest, and everybody can do it. Still being used today, originated in 1954. Melts in your mouth. And who is it? Repetition doesn't work, does it? Marketing has no effect, does it? Everyone in here can sing that like it's a song. Absolutely incredible. Apparently those ad dollars are paying off. I saw a study the other day that said the average household now has more televisions than people. Kind of a scary thought if you think through the implications of this. Somewhere there are some dogs and cats being entertained. When it comes to marketing, they also use product positioning. Product positioning is a big deal. There's all kinds of aspects to this. One is brand recognition. Brand recognition is where they position a product in your mind as associated with a certain value. For instance, years ago, the first time that the generic products started hitting the market, there was a big ketchup war, because your local grocery store would slap a generic brand on a ketchup bottle and put it on the shelf cheaper than Hunt's or Heinz. And I remember there was a commercial, some of you remember it 15, 20 years ago, where they would show the Hunt's or the Heinz ketchup, and it was thick and rich. And the generic ketchup was thin and runny and made in the same factory. Mercedes has done such a good job as positioning themselves in the consumer's mind as holding its value. Mercedes hold their value. You ought to look at the numbers if you think that's true. As a matter of fact, an interesting thing happened that didn't work in marketing was Cadillac back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, found that Cadillacs of a $50,000 level of Cadillac was holding its value statistically better than a corresponding Mercedes. When Cadillac studied this, knew it was true, but in the consumer's mind, a Cadillac went down and a Mercedes was just steady. Mercedes had planted that as a brand position in our minds. Cadillac spent $100 million buying advertisements trying to teach the consumer that it wasn't true, and the ad campaign was a flop. Mercedes was so entrenched in the consumer psyche with the thing that holds its value, they'd done such a good job that everyone didn't believe the Cadillac ads. And they were true. At that period of time, I don't know what it is today, but at that period of time, Cadillac did hold its thing. We've got a new one going on. If you use Macs instead of using a PC, you're cool. PC people like me that don't use Macs can't stand the things. Don't want an Apple on my stuff. I'm a nerd. I'm undernourished. I don't know what's going on. My intellect hasn't kept up. But you people with spike hair, boy, you're cool. You're cool. You got it all together because you use an Apple. They've done a great job with that one. That is a fabulous marketing campaign. The iPod marketing campaign has been fabulous with those guys. They've associated their entire brand with coolness. Their entire brand is about you are cool if you're using their stuff. Young people, the younger the demographic, the more likely you are to go that direction. The older you are, the less you care about being cool. It's very interesting stuff. This stuff works. They spend a lot of money on it. Bottled water. I got a friend of mine that's very wealthy. He says, he thinks, that, you know, how some people call themselves a wine snob. He says he's a water snob. He spends money for this expensive water and he can tell the difference. No, he can't. I was getting ready to be on 2020 not long ago with John Stossel, and so to get ready to go meet John Stossel and hang out with him, I read a couple of his books. And it was really interesting. I wrote down the stuff out of one of the chapters because he's got that stuff, you know, he does where he studies consumer myths, right? And he did the bottled water myth. He got all the expensive waters out and he got New York tap water. New York City tap water out. He took it all to a microbiologist. The microbiologist went through every one of them. He said there wasn't spit difference in them. They were exactly the same. Maybe a little more fluoride in the tap water. That was it, which would be good for your teeth anyway. He says basically the same. And then they did blind taste tests and the most expensive water came in the worst. New York tap water came in third consistently. New York City tap water. And the cheap generic water, what are we saying? The cheaper generic water kept winning the taste test. My wife and I not long ago were in Oslo, Norway, and we really were cracking up. The guide took us into this store and they had this bottled water in there. Of course, Oslo, Norway is up near the Arctic Circle, right? And so they've got this bottled water from glaciers. It's glacier water. Ooh. It says this water is 6 million years old. Turn it around and on the back it said used by September 30th. Is it any wonder that Evian spelled backwards is naive?
If it's not Diamond Springs, it's not water.
That's the worst water I've ever had in my life.
What's that?
Diamond Springs is not good water at all.
They're good to Benedictine. Did you know, any of you that have done grocery shopping, if you look in the meat case where the steaks and the ribs and the ribeyes are, there's two types of fluorescent lights. There's a warm white, which emits a red glow, and they use those on the meat counter because it makes the red meats look even better and richer and bolder. And then out in the garden center, they use cool white fluorescent bulbs. If you look at any of the fluorescent tubes that you may have like out in the shop in the garage or something, there's a warm white and cool white. Cool whites emit more of a greenish grayish cast. So they'll use those in the garden center and the florists over the plants and flowers to make them look greener. Just one of a bazillion different marketing techniques and strategies to make things look the very best that they can look, to convince you or help convince you to purchase whatever that product is. Any other takeaways or thoughts? All right, I've got one more, and then we're going to talk about what we're going to do for kind of an exercise, a little exploratory surgery. Give me a second here to get this fired up. Let's see. Hold on 1 second.
Sometimes we get stuck on the idea of being cool, of having the cool clothes or driving the cool car, or maybe having a lot of friends on the cool social media website. But I learned a lesson about cool a few years ago, and it surprised me, and I think it's going to surprise you too. You see, I was living in Boston at the time, and I was what they call a cool hunter. My job was to figure out what are the trends in the city. What are people interested in? What are the words they're saying, or the stuff they're buying, or the places they're going? What's the cool restaurant? And so my job was to kind of scour the city and find things that were cool. And one day I had a new assignment. They wanted me to come up with 5 slang words. 5 phrases that people were saying on the streets, 5 new phrases in Boston. And then I would package those up. I'd write a little report up, maybe a page or 2, and then I'd send it to the company I worked for. And then they'd repackage it and they'd sell it to clothes manufacturers or TV stations or movie studios. And they'd say, this is what teenagers care about. We've studied the country. Here's what they like. And so that day I worked on it, and I went on the subway and I listened to conversations, and I came up with 4 words that I really thought people were using. But I needed one more. And so that night, I was sitting at my desk, and I had an aloe plant in the corner, that cactus that grows with the thick leaves. And I started to think, I need another word. I'm stuck. I need another word. And then it hit me, aloe. I'll just tell them aloe is a word that people in Boston say. And I'll say, well, it means cool and refreshing. And I needed an example sentence. So I said, that girl has mad aloe. And then I emailed the report in. And I thought for sure they were going to laugh at me, that they'd respond and go, seriously? Stop making up these words. Nobody says aloe. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? I just made that up. It was from my desk. It was a plant. And about a week later, they sent out the results of these reports. You see, they have 10,000 trend hunters around the world, and they sent out this report, and they said, of all the words, there is one that you need to know. Wherever you live, this is the word that's going to be huge next season. Every teenager's going to be saying this. Can you guess what word they picked? Aloe. They even had my example sentence. That girl has mad aloe. And I realized that moment that cool is fictional. It's just made up. I mean, have you and your friends ever said that word aloe at school? Have you ever been like, my locker's feeling aloe today? Oh, that test was so not aloe. No, of course not. Why haven't you? Because cool is fake. It's fictional. It's made up. So as you walk through your day, as you walk through your year, and you get distracted by other people's definition of cool, don't fall for that. You get to determine in your own life, in your own heart, what's really cool. You get to define your own aloe. So don't fall for that trap. You are the definition of cool.
And some of these ads have an unintended effect. They don't accomplish their purpose, do they? One of those examples, and it's kind of a little bit of the laughing stock of the ad world, is the Aflac duck. Everybody goes, Aflac, Aflac, and has no idea what the company does. There was another one that went broke. Aflac's open, obviously, but another one that went broke was Pets.com. They had this really cool dog sock puppet. The dog sock puppet became like a cult following. As a matter of fact, he got other gigs on other commercials after Pet.com went broke. The dog sock puppet was so effective that nobody had any idea what he was talking about. So sometimes this stuff doesn't work. Color matters when you're doing product positioning. Many years ago, when I first got in the real estate business at 18 years old, I worked for a company called ERA, Electronic Realtor Associates. And what they told us at that time was that the ugly orange on those signs, looks like the cones when you're going through traffic, you know the signs I'm talking about, was developed by a company called the Color College to create more possible reaction in your peripheral vision. Because ugly orange picks up in your peripheral vision more often than maybe a local real estate agent who didn't think when they put sign colors together, and they kind of put together sign colors that looked like trees, rocks, and grass. So their sign blends in. But if you're driving by and you get that sign, and signs have a lot to do with selling residential real estate, you got to see the sign. If you see that sign, that head turns, whoa, that's the one. But if you never see the sign because it blends in, it's a big deal. So right after ugly orange came out ugly yellow, Century 21. And they know it's ugly, they don't care, it works. And color is studied. Color is studied in packaging to follow your eye movement when you're looking at packaging. How do you work the package with your eyes? When you're looking at other things like shelf position, that's another. Everybody knows about shelf position, don't we? I mean, when you walk in, Wrigley's Gum figured this out. I was out in Phoenix, Arizona, riding around with a friend of mine out there that's very wealthy, in the very wealthy end of town. He pointed up the wealthiest house in the wealthy end of town. He said, that's the Wrigley Mansion. Because they put little sticks of gum at the impulse point, the first people to ever do that in the grocery store. They called on the shelf position. And nowadays in a grocery store or in a bookstore or in other things, you think those books on the front are necessarily the best? No. If I want my book on the front, I pay to put my book on the front. It's a bought shelf position. You want your Oreos on a shelf, you're going to pay, if you're Nabisco, to get the Oreo on a shelf in a certain place especially. And you don't want to be down here unless you're selling to the little kids. You want to be right up in here at eye level, and then you're creating color and process to get the attention so that we impulse on the Oreo. And then they lay, Wall Street Journal did a whole study of how they have the cameras up in the grocery stores. Grocery stores are some of the best merchandisers there are. And the cameras up are not to watch to see who's shoplifting a bag of Fig Newtons, okay? The cameras are studying how you walk the store. How do you work the store? How's your mind work? Because in the old days, in the 50s and 60s, you'd put the meat and the milk and the bread at the back. It was a simple idea. Those were basics. And to get to those, you had to walk past everything. And then you'd get that stuff, and they were hoping that you'd get something as you went out. Now they're more sophisticated than that. That stuff's still back there, but they've even tried all kinds of different designs of aisles And you feel like a rat stuck in a labyrinth, don't you? Because they're making you work this store to let me out. They're walking you past as much product as possible because that causes sales. They don't kid around about this stuff. It's very, very, very real. I mean, if you go out there and you're going through the hard labor of pumping your gas, and it's a hot August day and things are bad. So now I'm going to go inside and pay because the pay at the pump thing's not working for some reason. Now I'm aggravated and I'm hot. And I walk in and there's one of these right in the middle of the floor. Now, it's very carefully designed in the floor plan on a chain set of markets. A local market may or may not be sophisticated, but a chain set of markets has an exact floor plan to put that thing in the iced cooler in the exact right spot. The exact right spot is not too much in the way, because if it's too much in the way, I'm already ticked now, I'm offended. Right? If it's not enough in the way, I never see it, do I? So it's got to be right here so that I'm a little hot, I'm a little bit ready for some refreshment. Oh, there it is. Shelf position, the location in the floor plan. It's not an accident. And I walk in and I pick up a Mountain Dew and a piece of ice slides off the side and drops. And as I do, in my subconscious, I go off a tire swing into a creek. Walk up to the register and pay for this thing what I could have bought a case of them across the street for. This is not a game, is it? These guys are really, really good at what they do. Now today, I might not do a Mountain Dew, but I'd probably get me some good generic water, right? I tell you. Packaging is interesting too, isn't it? The way they package stuff, the design, the look and the feel of the package. All of these things are designed to have an impact on you. You have to be aware of it. Do you have to be freaked out about it and all paranoid and they're out to get us? No, they'll come get you with the butterfly net. That's not the idea. But they are very sophisticated, so we as consumers should at least be aware, shouldn't we? We should at least beware.
All right. Couple things, and then let you throw in some comments and discussions. You probably picked up on that shelf position. That's key if you go into Food Lion, Wegmans, Publix, Walmart grocery. Those premium shelves are between knee-high and eyeball height. And companies pay more to have their products on those shelves, because that's what, you're not going to be looking down at your toes. You're not going to be looking, 3 or 4 feet over your head as commonly as right directly in front of you. I had 2 neighbors when I was working in South Carolina that worked for competing tobacco companies back when smokeless tobaccos were more regularly used. And, they explained to me, how much they had to pay, even for like in the Wawas, the 7-Elevens, the Sheetz grocery stores, for the primo locations to put those products. So, location and shelf position is a big deal. And he talked about it with the water, the end caps on the end of the aisles. Those are primo locations. And then those center islands, like you talked about, that you really can't avoid or almost trip over as you're walking, are also high dollar or primo locations for companies to put their products to get you to impulse buy things that probably you didn't initially go into the store to pick up. Any thoughts or comments on that? How about when you go on Amazon or eBay looking for whatever the product is? I was with a break buying a Fitbit watch replacement, the straps. And you can do that, and then the next time you get on Facebook, what ads are sprinkled on your Facebook as you're scrolling through your newsreel is whatever you were just shopping for on Amazon or eBay. Another form of a newer form of marketing, which he didn't really address, probably because that video those two videos we watched, they're probably a couple of years old. Other thoughts or comments or questions? Everybody's quiet. Did we lose a bunch of people? It looks like it, doesn't it? All right. Next thing we're going to do, you've got an assignment. I tried to get in a black box just before class, but ended up being called for a meeting. So, and I teach Algebra 2 right after this. So give me till 3:30 or so, or 2:30 or so, and I'll have it up there. But we are going to do this between now and just have it to me before noon, noon on Thursday. So you have 2 days to do it. And it's what you're going to do is you are going to. Somebody talking to me? All right, maybe there's a bleed over. What your assignment is you're going to watch a 30-minute television show. You pick, doesn't matter. And then, here's some of the terms we talked about: bandwagging, persuading people to do something by telling them others are doing it. Your parents probably say, if your buddy, whatever, jumped off the bridge, would you jump off the bridge also? But bandwagon, testimonials, famous people saying stuff. Again, that's real common with medications. Transfer slant fantasy, using the names of pictures of famous people, Tiger Woods or Tom Brady or whoever. Ads trying to convey that the product will help the consumer imitate the famous person in the ad. Repetition, he talked about that in the videos. Some of those jingles that kind of get locked in your head that you've heard over and over. Playing on your emotions about something, which also kind of relates to nostalgia, creating a sentimental tone while pointing back to the good old days. You guys are a little bit too young for that, but if you look at some of the commercials geared at the older generation, they often use nostalgia to try to convince them to buy whatever the product is. Stats and facts, not probably used as common much because that's kind of dry, boring, mundane, and not real motivating, but it is used in some instances. Humor makes people laugh, so they have a positive association with the product. And sense of appeal, sounds or pictures that are pleasing to the eye. So those are some of the things that you may look for. So you're going to watch a 30-minute show, and somewhere in that process, have this in front of you and kind of look it over. If you can't print it out, just write the questions down of what you want to do. And it's got several questions. You're going to pick 2 30-minute commercials. Let's see here. Where is it? Let's go to this part first. So you're going to pick 2 30-minute commercials, or 2 commercials during the 30-minute show. And if you want to do more than one show, but just 2 commercials. You're going to talk about, you list the product or company advertised, a very brief summary of the commercial since you don't have that much room to write. How are the people portrayed? And just answer the questions. What's the advertisement selling? What are some of the techniques used? Which are those terms that we have right here on our sheet? Okay. And what interests you most about the advertisement? So pick something that maybe you would select or purchase or buy at some point in time, and answer those questions, right?
Can we do it on like notebook paper?
Yeah, if you can't,
Right.
if you don't have a printer, you're just going to have to copy this down. And I'll have it in Blackboard, but actually I tried to get in before class, but had an interruption, couldn't do it. And then there's some other questions here to also answer. So this is not related to the commercial. This is something else. Think of a purchase that you've made that's over 20, in the $25 or greater range, and then just answer these questions. Why'd you buy it? Did you see a commercial about it? Did it convince you is that what helped convince you to purchase that product, and that type of thing? So kind of 2 parts to this, kind of analyze something that you purchased recently, so it's fresh in your mind, that you spent $25 or more on, and answer those 5 or 6 questions, and then analyze, kind of pick apart 2 commercials that you watched during some show here over the next day and a half. Okay. Any questions or comments on that?
Are you just gonna send us the link to that, or?
I'm going to attach it. I'm going to attach it in Blackbaud in today's assignment under the classwork homework. It'll be CHW 421, so I'll attach that form there. Okay?
Is it due?
Just get it to me before noon on Thursday so I can kind of take a look at what you guys have done. So you got almost 2 days to do it. So it's a 30-minute commercial, 30-minute show, two commercials that you pick out of that to analyze, and then a kind of a self-analysis of a 25-minute commercial that or $25 product that you've bought over within the last month or so, and what any kind of advertising played in that purchase. Any questions? Any questions?
No, sir.
Negative.
Still do office hours every afternoon from 2 to 2:30. If you got something you need to hit me up with. We'll be back here at noon on Thursday. Check Blackbaud here mid-afternoon today. I'll get that worksheet in there. If you don't have a printer, just write down the questions of what you're being asked to, the 5 questions on the $25 item, and then the kind of the 2 little tables of the 2 commercials you're going to pick out of a 30-minute show. Just listen.
Is there a way that we can like type it, like just edit the thing that you sent us, or is it not like that?
Where you type it right on the document itself?
Yeah, I mean, if it's not like that, I can just write it down.
It's a PDF. And I'd have to ask somebody a little more. I can ask our tech guy. I don't know if you can, I don't think you can type on a PDF. Does anybody know the trick to doing that? I don't have a problem you doing it if you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
It come to you in a PDF format.
You can.
You can?
Yeah, I do it for Arnold all the time.
Pardon?
You can do it. You can do it.
Can you briefly describe how to do it?
I'll text him.
I mean, you just save it as a PDF and then you just start typing.
Okay. If you didn't hear that, Mr. Wright said you just save it as a PDF and then you can type right on it.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jimmy.
Fine with me.
Teddy, just hit me up if you need anything, brother. All right.
Got you, Jimmy.
All right. Other questions?
How's your day been, sir? No, I'm joking. I'm good.
All right. How about you?
I was going good.
To get back to more normal.
Hey, Jacob.
Okay. If you guys don't have any questions, that's all I got for you. I will see you on Thursday, and don't forget the assignment.
Bye, sir. I love you.
All right.
Have a good day.
Love you.
Have a good one, sir.
All right. Take care.
Sir, you got to say it back.
All right, I'm Mr. Captain Beasley now.
All right. We'll see you. Don't fall out of bed. Still go. Okay. Since I once again failed to turn on the recorder at the very beginning of the class, I'm going to just take a couple minutes to go over what we discussed at the beginning. And it's just the announcements of some protocol issues and some calendar issues reference how the rest of the quarter is going to go. And most of these, the Zoom procedures, we've had some issues on Zoom with some folks being in class that's not supposed to be there. And so to eliminate or minimize the likelihood of that happening any longer, you've got to be on class at the start. You got to be in class at the start of class. If you're more than a minute or two late, we are no longer permitted or allowed to let you into class. You've got to have your camera on. If not, we've got to make arrangements to make sure it's actually you, all right? And so that you do also stay for the full length of the class. It has to be an accurate username so I can recognize the username goes with you, not maybe Billy Bob's crib, but something that applies to you. No food, no hats, no hoodies. You can be wearing a hoodie, but not have the hoodie part of it on. Be wearing a hoodie sweatshirt. And no classroom is taking place while you're in bed. Okay, so that's some of these you've heard. But the big thing is make sure you're in the class at the start of class. We only have you 2 days a week for 50 minutes. So I don't want you joining 10, 15, 20 minutes late. If you miss class or you try to get in and you're not permitted in, for my class, just go ahead and I load it up on YouTube, usually within an hour of when the class ends, and you just watch it. And if you want the 40 up to, you get most or some of the 45 points back that you lost for not attending class, write a 5 or 6 sentence paragraph summarizing what we covered in class so that I know the fact that you did attend it and watch it, okay? A couple other housekeeping things. Last day of class for seniors, and half of this class is seniors, will be May 12th. For you juniors and sophomores, we're going to go all the way to May 21st, so you've got an extra 4 or 5 classes, and we're going to keep going because we got plenty of material to cover. Those extra 4 or 5 classes after the seniors depart the fix. All right. You've probably already heard this from earlier classes. There's no semester exam in here or any other class. So instead of the 40-40-20 that you were used to first semester and previous years, it's going to be each third and fourth quarter is each worth 50%. All right. Blackbaud is current. I am missing a bunch of assignments from many of you. So if you want to submit something that's late, I'll take a look at it and give you partial credit, but send it via email. Don't put it in Dropbox because I've got 7, 8, 9 Dropboxes per class times 5 classes. So I've got close to 50 Dropboxes. And it's very labor intensive to go back 4 weeks to cherry pick things and compare, okay, who hasn't submitted stuff from 4 or 5 weeks ago. So send me an email copy of whatever it is that you submitted back then. Make sure you have your name on it, and I will give you at least partial credit. If I find that you actually did send it to me on time, I'll give you the full credit. Okay, so that's kind of the coverage of housekeeping chores, and we didn't have any questions reference that, and so we're going to resume our movement through chapter 6 today, which is consumer awareness, which you are exposed to probably more than you ever realized. And we're going to kind of talk about consumer awareness and kind of pick apart various aspects of it and kind of analyze it to kind of, again, become aware of what different companies are doing to help convince you that you can't do without their particular product, be it a food product, a fast food, a grocery store product, clothing, apparel, a trip, an experience, whatever it is. And we're going to talk about these various terms, marketing tactics, such as bandwagon, testimonial, repetition, emotion, nostalgia, statistics, humor, transfer, slant celebrities, and appeal to the senses. And I believe that's where we turn the video on, so you should be caught up from there. All right, everybody have a good day, and we will see you on Thursday.